Hi. Can you give Mom a kiss? Good girl. Hi, my name is Bonnie, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. I am 68 years old, and I grew up in a little town called Brockway's Mills, north of Rockingham in Bellas Falls. I was the oldest of 3 girls. I grew up listening to my dad and my fighting with my mother on a regular basis, and that made me feel so scared and alone, and I was just always in fear of what was going to happen next. And I just was extremely fearful, shy, scared little kid. And back then I remember escaping through reading, going to the neighbors, riding their horses, taking care of the farm animals, just to get out of the house. I didn't have a whole lot of friends, a couple childhood friends, but never got out of the big excitement of the day was riding the bus to Bellas Falls and back home again. And that's about the extent of getting out and doing anything. I excelled in high school. I was high honors. I was always trying to just do my best and looking for that approval from my family. That didn't happen. Right out of high school, I got married to my boyfriend, and we started drinking on occasion. I was asked to leave my parents' home, and that was pretty traumatic for me because I had no place to live. So my husband and I was married at this time, we just started couch surfing. Then we ended up out in Athens, Vermont. And when we moved to Athens, Vermont, I finally got pregnant and had 2 children right off the bat. And during this time, it was just a big struggle. No running water, no electricity most of the time, or having the power shut off, or not having a car, not having a phone, not having wood for the wood stove to keep the place warm. I started drinking a little bit more, maybe smoking a little pot. My husband just rarely could hold a job, so everything felt upon my shoulders. And now I've got 2 kids, and I don't even know how to parent them. It was just really, I felt I had no support from family or friends. Like I had made my bed, according to my mother, now you lie in it, you figure it out. And it was so hard not even having food for my kids a lot of the time. And then my husband was offered a job from the next door neighbors, and I remember saying, well, what are you going to do up there? And he said, oh, I'm going to work in a lumber mill. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd. He came home that first or second day, and he told me that he was going to be growing pot in a large amount. And I remember thinking, growing pot, like I didn't get it. And I knew about pot, and I'd smoked a little bit here and there, but I didn't really understand the concept of growing large amounts of marijuana. And he said, yeah, we're going to get rich. We're going to be able to have a car. We're going to get running water. We're going to have a new house. We're going to have this. And so I was like, okay, whatever. And so that year, that summer, him and I lived on a farm with our 2 children, and we were the farmers for growing this pot. And it was kind of fun in the beginning. Like, this house we were staying at had running water, and it was just a really nice location. I remember during this time, there was a lot of people from the city there at this home, and they were all at the dining room table. Now, mind you, I'm still extremely shy. I feel like I can't talk to people. My face gets beet red, and I look out, and all these people are doing something at the dining room table, and I remember thinking, what is that stuff? And I said to myself, I sure hope they don't come over to me, because I have no idea what this stuff is. And they came to me, and I said, what is it? And it was just like felt singled out. It was cocaine. And I remember I did it, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I could talk to people. I could sing and dance with the rest of them, and it just made me feel complete, almost. Terrible word to use, but it was just so. During that time, I used cocaine daily for probably the next couple of years, and I didn't realize. I knew it was taking a toll on me, but I didn't realize the cost of it, because my husband was working for these people, so the cocaine didn't cost anything. So when harvest time come, and we were supposed to make all this money and have all this money to buy a car, get electricity, whatnot, and he comes home with $1,000 when he had told me we were going to make a lot of money, and I'm like, and it was what we had spent on cocaine for the last year. And it was just horrible during those times, and my life was just out of control. Like, I couldn't take care of my kids. I remember my kids being at Head Start and me forgetting to pick them up, and the state never became involved, which I'm really surprised about now, looking back, like, oh my goodness. So anyways, that continued. I got pregnant for my youngest daughter, and I'm like, I'm not doing cocaine anymore. I'm going to stop. And I moved out of Athens with my 2 kids. I'm like, I'm not going to live without running water, and wondering how I'm going to heat my home tonight. I moved to an apartment in Bellas Falls, but yet I still smoke pot. And during this time, I was like, I'm going to do better with my life. And I signed up for community college of Bellas Falls, and in Springfield, and I started doing all these classes through CCV, and I aced them all. I was like the highest score in my class, but yet I was going in the bathroom and doing lines of cocaine. So go figure, it didn't last very long. We then got legally evicted from this apartment. My husband came back, we got evicted, and we ended up in this project up in Springfield, Vermont, which was, that was just a horrible time as well. So we started doing cocaine again. What a surprise. And during this time, I now have 3 kids. They're still being neglected. I'm just barely surviving. And during this time, I also did 2 overdoses in one day of cocaine, and nothing made me stop. I was under 100 pounds. Oh, my life was just out of control. We met up with these people up in Springfield that were from Brooklyn, New York City, and because we had good pot for sale, and so people came to us, and this woman said she'd moved to Springfield to get away from the drugs in New York City, and she said, I've been watching you, Bonnie, and you're a really good driver, and how would you like to drive my car back and forth to Brooklyn to get cocaine? So I found myself driving into the middle of Brooklyn, New York, with this black woman, woman of color, and I wasn't the strange thing is I wasn't afraid. We were in the places in Brooklyn that I should have been scared to death. There was no other white people anywhere around, and all of a sudden I'm doing this 3 and 4 times a week, running to Brooklyn and back, and getting back, and my pay was a rock of cocaine. And again, my kids are being neglected big time. I felt like there was no way out of this, like this is the way my life is going to be. And I felt there was no hope. I couldn't see any, if I wasn't in the car driving, I was locked in my bedroom with a wool blanket stapled to the windows, and the fear of everybody and everything, paranoid, that's what it was. So February 9th, 1989, I was upstairs with a needle in my arm because I couldn't stop doing drugs. I couldn't stop. And I heard the door downstairs being kicked open, and all of a sudden there's 20 state police in my bedroom. And I'm sitting there and I can't stop. And I heard my kids screaming and crying downstairs. My youngest was 6, I think, and the other 2, like the commotion, and it was like a bad nightmare. And so they dragged me down the stairs in handcuffs and took me out. And my kids, I remember them screaming, and I still sometimes today, not as much as I used to, but the fear of my children wondering what was happening. And I was doing the same thing to my kids, what I'd grown up seeing in my own home, except for my dad was never arrested that I know of. So they got me to the police station, and I'd never had mugshot or fingerprints done, and I remember begging the police to not put it in the newspaper. Please, please don't put this in the newspaper, because my mom and dad and grandparents and sister and all my family live local, and my children who are in school systems, I didn't want them to see it because I was so embarrassed and ashamed of what I had done, and especially shooting up with a needle. I was really ashamed over that piece. And by the grace of God, I'm still clean from cocaine today. I never touched cocaine again after 1989. I went to court, and the judge said, do this, this, and this. And so I went out and got a job right away because, mind you, my husband didn't work. And so I got a job right away to support my husband and my kids and pay the rent. And I was working like 50 hours a week. I was working as a shorter order cook in Chester, Vermont. And I learned so much from that job. You know, I became really quite good at it. And so then I started doctor shopping and dentist shopping. I wasn't doing cocaine anymore. I was still smoking pot on occasion. Pot just didn't work for me anymore. But I started loving opioids and realizing that they were doing the same effect. It was numbing me out so I didn't feel or have any guilt or all those negative feelings. So when I wasn't working, I was seeing all these dentists and all these doctors, having teeth pulled that didn't need to come out, just for drugs. I was having surgeries that I didn't need for more drugs. And it was becoming a full-time job between working 40, 50 hours a week and then traveling 3 states to get opioids. Again, so my kids are being neglected again. And, you know, the pattern is still there. And, you know, I didn't see anything wrong with it at that point. Like, at least I'm not doing cocaine. So what, I'm doing 30 Percocet a day, you know? That was my excuse. I have all this pain. I need these drugs. So one of the requirements of the court was I needed to see this alcohol and drug counselor. And I had heard about this woman. Her name was Holly Dixon. She's dead now. God bless her heart. She ran Canterbury Farm up in Proctorsville, Vermont. And I had to go see her, but I'd heard through friends that, oh, you don't want to mess with that woman. She'll see right through you. Well, she certainly saw right through me, and she called me a damn liar after I met with her. And I thought I was doing great by telling her the truth. You know, I was honest about everything except the doctor shopping and dentist shopping. Well, she had a list of all the doctors, all the dentists I'd been visiting for the last 2 years, all the pharmacies I'd visited. And my probation officer was also sitting there. And she said, you're a damn liar, Bonnie, and you need to go to treatment because you're substituting one drug for another. I'm like, oh my God, how dare you say that? How dare you I need these pills. I've got this ache and this pain and that pain. And so I said, I can't go to treatment because I've got 3 kids. My husband is at work, and who's going to feed them? Who's going to take care of them? She's like, you're going to treatment tomorrow. I'm like, I got to go to work tomorrow. Well, too bad, you're going to treatment. My probation officer saying, okay, you want to go to jail or go to treatment? I said, okay, I'll go to treatment. I was so mad. I was like furious. So off, and I was thinking I'd go to Canterbury Farm. You're not going there. You need to be medically detoxed off these drugs, off these opioids, because I was using so many a day. And so off to Maple Leaf Farm I went. And I got there and I informed them that I wasn't doing cocaine anymore. My life is wonderful, thank you very much. I don't have a problem. It's that woman, that probation officer. It was everybody else's fault but my own. So I was so mad. Oh, I remember crying, like, how dare these people do this to me? Like, so a couple days into physical withdrawal, which was absolute hell. It was just awful. And then they said, well, you need to write an autobiography of your life up to 10 pages and stand up in front of the group and read it like everybody else has. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I didn't want to do anything anybody said to me because I was still so mad. So I wrote my autobiography, which I still have today. And I stood up there in front of that group and started reading my life story. And I remember I fell to the floor in tears, in a fetal position, crying, sobbing. Like, oh my God, I realized at that point that my life for 25 years had been under the influence every single day of my life. And my kids is like, oh my God, I got 3 kids, you know, like, how come I don't remember all these important milestones and the pain I felt about neglect of my own children, and it was so hard. And I'm like, I can't live like this anymore. I gotta do something different. And at that point, I was willing to go to any lengths to stay drug-free and sober. After 30 days, I went home to my husband and my 3 kids, and I walked into the apartment, and it was like, you know, the dirty dishes and the dirty clothes and no food, and, you know, when are you going to make supper? When are you going to clean the house? I'd been gone for 30 days, and nothing had changed, and I didn't know how to be a wife, a mother, I had never gone without being under the influence of a drug. I went to a meeting right away because Maple Leaf had told me that if I wanted to stay clean, I needed to go to a meeting. And I remember I went to an AA meeting, and I got there and I said to the people, I'm just got out of rehab and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to live. I need help. And I had so much support from the people in Alcoholics Anonymous during this time. And I had to leave my husband in order to stay clean and sober. My husband was still using. A couple of my kids maybe were using a little bit then too. And everybody was like mad at me and my family, meaning my husband and children. Like, it's your responsibility to stay. You can't just leave us. You can't walk out. And so I walked out on my husband and my 3 kids. And that was really, really hard thing to do because I tried forcing my youngest daughter to come with me. She was 9 and she wasn't having no part of that. Like, I hate you. It was just really hard for me. And of course I got involved with another man right away, and I stayed clean for 6 years that time. And I ended up getting my youngest daughter, forcing her to come live with me. And she graduated high school, and I got a job. I got a really good job working for HCRS and in a group home in Bellas Falls. And I loved that job. And my youngest sister ended up dying of cancer my first year clean, and that was really hard. I sort of had a rocky relationship with my parents. I think they were kind of embarrassed of their daughter. You know, they both had reputable jobs where everybody knew what I'd done, and I felt, I don't know, I still never really felt like I belonged in my family, like, you know, that they were ashamed of me. After 6 years of being clean and having a good job, and during this time I found out what it was important to have people trust me and believe me and like me, and I didn't feel like I needed to hide anymore or search anymore. Like, I was living life and having fun and doing things that I'd never done before, which was really exciting at that time. Then I had to have a minor surgery procedure, 6 years of being clean. And I remember I woke up from the surgery and I was in a lot of severe pain. And I remember saying to the doctor that you got to give me pain medicine. I can't deal with this. This is just too hard. This is hurting me. And they're like, well, we're looking at your, I said, yeah, but that was 6 years ago. I'm all better now. And so they gave me the opioids, and I was off to the races again. And so I think I went about a year that time, maybe, using just prescribed medication. Got clean again, got back in the program, got back on track, went back to CCV, did some classes, got a different job. You know, things are going well in my life. And then, wham, out of nowhere, another operation. I think it was breast cancer the first time I had breast cancer. And that gave me the perfect reason to use. I got breast cancer. So I started using again. A lot of stuff happened. It's kind of blurry within the last 10 years, but so 10 years ago, I found myself homeless. living here in Brattleboro in a motel room. I never thought that would happen ever. And here I am in a friggin' motel room. Oh my God, my life has really hit rock bottom now. And I'm like, I didn't like the person I was becoming again, because I was again using opioids prescribed by a doctor. And I felt during this time that I had all these aches and pains and moans and groans, and I needed these painkillers to make me not hurt anymore. But most of the pain was the emotional pain of realizing that I need to look at some of this stuff from my past and heal from it and move beyond it. And so I'm happy to say that today I have 6 years totally drug-free and sober, and my life is amazingly wonderful. Like, I don't have to go searching for painkillers anymore. And I must say that I got to add in here my doctor that I'd had for 25 years, the same primary care doctor, was the one that was giving me all of these opioids. I fired him 6 years ago. I was like, I can't. I just knew that this time I needed to do something different and not have that doctor to fall back on just in case times got too hard. But in the last 10 years, I've been living alone for 9 years with my parrot, and I have so many wonderful, healthy people in my life today. I'm started singing with the Brattleboro Women's Chorus 9 years ago, and that has been a huge impact and such a wonderful thing in my life. Like, I have all these sisters that just support me. I've always loved music, but now to be a part of something that's so wonderful, and I just love it, and I wouldn't miss it for nothing. And it's important to mention Women's Chorus because they all have been so wonderful to me. I volunteer at the Turning Point in the last couple of months. I've been doing some online stuff on Zoom of storytelling, and I'd like to eventually become a recovery coach at the Turning Point, and I'm just really overall happy. My family, my children and grandchildren, I have 9 grandchildren. I am slowly building those relationships. I'm not going to say everything's rosy because there's a lot of stuff there, and I need to forgive myself on a daily basis for the things I did. And but I don't want for much today. I've got plenty of food on my table. I have so much love within my heart, and I just want to shout it from the rooftops that recovery is possible, and that if I can get through all these resiliency, I think that's the right word, resiliency, all the things I've been through, and to be able to stand here and say, I'm just so blessed beyond measure. And I can't, when I celebrated my birthday last month, I just, I didn't even think I was going to be alive, it's just a miracle that I'm standing here. And a lot of the people that including my ex-husband, is passed on from drug addiction, and a lot of the people that I used with, there's a few between that are still alive and still struggling. But you know what? I stay away from people that are still using, and I just don't want no part of that lifestyle anymore. And I just keep going forward. And I want to say that I have booked my vacation for January 2022. I'm going on my 5th cruise to the Caribbean out of New York City, and I'm really looking forward to that. And thank you all for listening to me, and I hope I didn't ramble too much. Oh.
What'd you have for dinner, Gracie? Did you eat another bird today?
She hasn't had chicken today, no. She's wanting chicken, but Mama hasn't given her any today.
Why? What? Gracie wants chicken.
Yeah, she does. That's what she loves, chicken.